Hi, this is Paul Solt from iPhone Dev TV, and I want to go over something that I've encountered with auto layout. It's really annoying. It's this bug with the top layout guide, and I'm going to show you how to work around it with Xcode 5. What's happening with this bug is that it is not doing what I'm expecting, and it's because Xcode's trying to, I think, be a little bit smart on how to position things. So what I'm going to do to replicate the bug is on my right bar. So if you just go to your utilities panel and go to the objects, I'm just going to select some UI views, drag them out, and I'm going to color them. So we're going to have a red and a blue view. And let's set the colors. So we got our red on top. I'll resize it to fit. Just want it on the edge, and then we want it right below the status bar. And then we've got our bottom view, which I'm going to change the color to blue. And to show that this is working, I'm not going to fill the entire bottom space because this white region is actually important to see how things are laying out. And I'm going to make the middle region a little bit bigger so that you can see a difference between this area, and this area. And so we're expecting that when we run this, without any auto layout constraints, okay, this is what we see. So it basically, it pins everything to the top left corner and displays it like so. So we don't see this bottom portion on from a 4 screen that we have on the right to the 3.5-inch screen that we see on the left. And so this is an iPhone 4S or a 4. And what I'm working with in the interface builder is a 5, iPhone 5 or 5S. So if I do this, we see some wonky behavior happens because we haven't set any constraints. And so I'm going to show you when you're first blocking out your app, how to set those constraints so that everything is working as intended. And then one of those consequences is there's an issue with the top layout guide, which is this very top line, which I am aligned to, but I don't have any constraints yet. So the thing that we need to take into account when we're creating constraints is that we need to specify them in terms of both size and position. And so that means that we need to add enough constraints to say, okay, this is how big I'm going to be, and then this is where I'm going to be positioned. And everything we're going to be doing is going to be based on points because we work with a retina screen, and so everything is in points, not pixels. And so if you see any numbers, it's always think points because it's dependent on what platform you're running. So the first thing that we need to do is start blocking out the application. Now I really want the constraint to hug the left side, the right side. So I don't want to specify a width constraint. I just want to add constraints. So I'm going to right click and drag. Alternatively, if you're using the trackpad, you can 2-click and drag a left and then let go. And then you should get the right click. Or you can use the control key when you're right or when you're left clicking, and you can get this to pop up. So what we have here, I can specify the width, but I don't want that. I want the leading space to container because I want it to hug the left edge. And so now we see a little line appeared. It's orange. It's on this left edge. Now I'll do the same thing for the right side. I'll drag right, and I want the trailing space. And again, we see another thing appear. Now we see that we have this sort of outline. This is the start of our frame that's going to be automatically calculated for us. The next thing I want is I want to specify the height. So I'm going to drag down and select the height. And so now we add the height. We're still orange, which means we don't have enough constraints. So the next thing I'll do is I'll drag up. And this is the issue I have. I want the top space to the top layout guide. I select it and we're blue, but I don't understand why it decided to add this constraint here. So the constraint is from the bottom edge here all the way up to the top. And if we actually look at it on the left here, if I can get this to pop over, you can see that this is our top layout guide to view, and it's saying -252. So we select it, and on the right, we can see that that value is there if you're on this tab right here. If you're on this tab, you can't see anything. So make sure you're on the right tab when you're working with constraints. Another way to see that is if we click on this, we can go to the measurement tool, and we can see our constraints here. We can hover over them, and they'll show us what they'll do. Now, if we stop and run, let's see what happens. All right, so now that's not working like we want. It's going up, and it's not staying at the position that we wanted, which is kind of weird. And so there's some kind of issue here with creating views that are around this top border region. Now I'm gonna quickly add some constraints to set up the relationship for the bottom portion. So we want this white space to always be constant. So all I have to do is drag down, let go, and do vertical spacing. And then for this bottom one, I'm not going to specify a height like I did for the top one. I want this one to be flexible. So this one's going to get squished with the resizing between the 4-inch screen and the 3.5-inch screen. So I'm just going to set our left leading space and then our right trailing space. We're still orange, so it doesn't know what our relationship to the bottom is. So we're going to create that relationship, and we're just going to do bottom space to bottom layout guide. Now we've specified enough information. We're now blue, and that means that we have all the constraints we need. So if we run this, we should see that blue area squishes. The spacing down here matches what we see on the left. We're seeing this is smaller, and then this is larger like we expected. But we're still having this issue with the top. So now if you're trying to always have your content below this, we've got an issue. And so the way to fix that is to select this one, which is our vertical space. It's got the negative value to the top layout guide, and we're going to delete it. We cannot add constraints in the manner where I'm going up to top space. It doesn't work. I'll just hit undo to get rid of that. And so you see we're back to orange with this top view. And so the way we can fix this is if we go to editor, and then we see the pin menu, and at the very right side, we see top space to super view. That's what we want. We want the constraint to be on the top of our view to the current super view, which is our main view. Voila, it adds what I expected. This is the constraint I wanted. I don't understand the top layout guide and why it doesn't work. So that is one of the ways to fix this issue. I believe if our view is on the lower portion, it's not touching this top layout guide. I could be wrong. So we fixed the issue. Let me just show you it real quick so that you can see that it is working. We see the spacing is what we expected. Now, I believe if we're trying to set the top view with another view and we did the top space to the layout guide, then that adds the right constraint. So you can see right here, it added this constraint that is going to push it down, and it is that distance away. But when we add it to our top view that is touching our, and it's saying that the top space to layout guide is there, but when we add this one, it's like, no, I'm going to add it from the bottom all the way up to the top and not go all the way to where we expect. And so I'm going to undo both of those changes just so that it doesn't mess up. So I think the other workaround is if you're having issues with it. So let's say I wanted to move, I'm not sure if this is going to work. I move this here. I'm going to update my constraints. And now I'm going to try and set the top space to layout guide. Now here we're seeing that same issue where it's like, okay, I'll move this here. I stop it and I run it, and let's see what happens. I can't tell, but it looks like that's not right. So now our view is off the screen by a certain amount. Let's we'll test that by putting a label at the very top left, and I'll set constraints on that. I'll just drag diagonal this time. We want, no, I don't want any of those constraints. I want it in relation to leading space. I'm holding shift, and then I want to pin it. So we're going to go to our pin option. I want to pin it to the top space to super view. Okay, so I don't know. Oh, the other issue is when you're up in this space, things are not clickable because of the status bar getting in the way. So now we just screwed ourselves with being able to access that. I'm going to drag this down, and we're going to resize the font so it's bigger. And hopefully we can still click it. We just can't click it. If we try to click here, it selects our entire view, which is dumb. That's another issue. And so now I think we have enough constraints on this one. I'll just click on it. Oops. Is that orange? That might be orange. So we're going to click on it and say add missing constraints. There are no constraints. Okay. We run it. Okay, so this is getting at the issue. Now, if you're trying to align content to the top where it doesn't work. So we cannot set that guide. And so what you need to do is you need to select it, delete it. Now that we have this view, we have to go to our product editor, pin top space to super view. That sets the one we want. It's the vertical space. And now we're along the top. So it's not pushing everything up off the screen by 20 points because of the status bar. So that is the solution to fix it. I believe if I just move this down here, so as long as I'm below, I'm not positive. We're going to delete this one more time and run through another scenario. Now, if I do the top layout guide, we can see it right here, that little glitchy thing. That's weird. Okay, so now it added the vertical spacing. And if I shift up, what I've read is that we can do this shift, and then I can come down here and say update constraints. So that may or may not work. Okay, that worked. That did what we expected. If I drag it back down and we wanted it positioned underneath the status bar, we'd have to update constraints here so that everything becomes blue again. So just updating the values, and we can stop it and rerun, and it works. All right, so that is how to fix the glitching with the top layout guide. Thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions.